Mesdames, Messieurs, merci d'être avec nous pour cette conférence de presse. On est tous impatients d'écouter Abhilash répondre aux questions et impatient de savoir comment va sa blessure à la main droite. Jusqu'au Sable d'Olonne, tout allait bien. Et puis tout à coup, arrivé au Sable d'Olonne, il s'est passé des trucs. Et la main portera un petit souvenir pendant quelques jours des Sables d'Olonne. Tu entends? Does it work? Ça marche? Ok. Merci mesdames pour la traduction. Merci aux orateurs et aux journalistes de parler distinctement et lentement pour faciliter le travail des traductrices. Vous avez des casques à votre disposition si votre niveau d'anglais n'est pas aussi bon que celui de Jean-Luc Vandenel. Et maintenant, nous pouvons commencer. Moi, je voulais juste ouvrir cette conférence de presse en vous faisant remarquer que on a vécu un moment extraordinaire ce matin au Sable d'Olonne. Je le dis devant Gérard Rest, mon adjoint au sport, et nos partenaires qui étaient là avec nous, la SOR, le département, la région. On a un marin extraordinaire qui est arrivé au Sable d'Olonne ce matin. Alors évidemment, dans le flot des aventures qui se déroulent au Sable d'Olonne, certains pourraient penser à tort que c'est une aventure parmi les autres. Eh bien non. Moi, j'avais une joie d'enfant ce matin en accueillant Abhilash à 6 heures au soleil levant, parce que c'était une joie qui était conjuguée à de l'admiration. De l'admiration. Cet homme a vécu une édition 2018-2019 cruelle. Il a été stoppé dans son élan au milieu de l'océan Indien, alité de force dans son bateau, ne répondant pas aux premiers appels de Don pour savoir ce qu'il advenait après cette tempête terrible. Il a été bloqué sur le dos pendant des jours, sauvé par les marins de l'Osiris, Cocorico, et il a réussi doucement, sûrement, avec la volonté qui est la sienne, à remonter, à rebondir et à retrouver la forme. Il porte du titanium dans le dos, lui. D'autres ont choisi par coquetterie de l'avoir dans le genou ou dans l'épaule. Lui, c'est dans le dos. Et malgré ça, parce qu'il n'a pas réussi à aller au bout de son aventure la première fois, il décide de se préparer pour la Golden Globe 2022-2023. Il s'engage avec un bateau préparé aux petits oignons. On se retrouve à Rihon. On était bien accueillis à Rihon, c'était sympa. Hein. C'est pas si mal les prologues de Don. Je devrais recommencer. Rihon, et on vient vers les Sables d'Olonne, on teste les bateaux, etc., etc. Bon. Et là, comme il l'a dit tout à l'heure avec beaucoup d'humour, malgré sa fatigue et l'émotion de cette matinée, son bateau a voulu faire un autographe sur un plus gros bateau et il se retrouve en situation impossible et il y a assez peu de gens qui pensaient qu'il allait pouvoir prendre le départ. Et finalement, il réussit à prendre le départ. Il prend le départ. Incroyable. Le départ d'Abhilash sur cette course est incroyable, avec ce que je viens de raconter. Il fait une course au meilleur des capacités de son bateau. Il fait une course qu'on suit nous avec les trackers, nous on a toutes les infos, lui il n'en a aucune. Et pour beaucoup d'entre nous, il y a quelques jours, quelques semaines, il allait arriver premier, parce qu'il était au coude à coude, neck to neck, comme disent les Anglais. Et on le voyait arriver premier. Et lui, il ne savait pas, mais nous, sur la carte, c'était pas limpide, mais c'était assez clair quand même. Et puis cette course est tellement imprévisible, tellement cruelle que finalement le sort en décide autrement. Et Kirsten arrive quelques heures avant lui, lui arrive quelques heures après. On savoure la joie de se retrouver, la joie d'accueillir Abhilash, la joie pour lui d'arriver, et puis une fusée de détresse lui laisse un dernier souvenir sur la main droite. Jusqu'au bout, cette course l'aura marqué, physiquement, mentalement. C'est pas une question que je pose dans cette conférence de presse, mais je voulais vous faire observer comme cet homme revient de loin. Moi, je suis très heureux que, à travers le monde tout entier, et pas seulement en Inde, ça fait déjà beaucoup de monde, hein, mais pas seulement en Inde, à travers le monde tout entier, des gens ont vécu avec toi, partagé avec toi ses émotions, ses espoirs, ses rêves, et notamment celui d'arriver ici au Sable d'Olonne. Et moi, j'ai été touché et heureux de te voir ce matin et de te serrer la main à un moment où elle était encore intacte, une fois que tu avais franchi la ligne. Donc, la ville des Sables d'Olonne est pleine de gratitude. Les Sablais qui étaient là sur les quais et les autres qui n'étaient pas là sont heureux de t'accueillir, heureux de ta pugnacité, heureux de l'image que tu donnes d'un homme qui n'abandonne jamais, qui va jusqu'au bout de ses rêves et qui les réalise. Tu nous as offert une très belle arrivée et nous en sommes encore touchés. Merci Abhilash.
Bravo Abhilash. Bravo.
Yannick is very generous with his words. I'm nothing like that. I'm very scared, and I'm always praying that God brings me back along with my boat. I'm a very simple guy.
Mais que tu aies eu peur et que tu aies prié pour arriver, c'est une chose. Mais tu as eu la volonté de le faire et le courage de le faire. Et tu y es parvenu. Et c'est cette joie-là qu'on a partagée, cet amour-là qu'on a partagé ensemble ce matin. Merci Abhilash. Don, if you have some... pardon, sorry.
The kind of effort that you and Lasabdalon put in to make sure that I am at the start, I just couldn't betray that, all the effort that you put in. And I did things for, one repair was like for my wife, one was for my kid, one was for my country, one was for Lasabdalon.
Confidence pour confidence. Je ne sais pas comment c'est dans ton couple ou dans le mien, mais il y a un point commun. C'est que ta femme ne lâche rien. Et quand j'ai eu ta femme au téléphone, parce que il fallait réparer ton bateau dans les 15 jours, j'avais qu'une envie, c'était non pas seulement de t'aider, mais de l'aider elle aussi. Et donc elle a été une part de la solution, indéniablement. Elle a mis beaucoup d'énergie et beaucoup d'amour pour convaincre les gens des Sables d'Olonne, de Talmont et autour de vous aider. Et ensemble, avec Don et avec les équipes ici, on a réussi, mais c'était fantastique. Mais ta femme y est pour beaucoup. Tu peux la remercier et moi je la remercie en tout cas.
That's true. She's incredible. And her name, Urmi Mala, means a string of ocean waves.
Wow.
And it's just, that's how it is supposed to be.
Incroyable. Incroyable. Okay, thank you. Don, please.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to now sit here with Abhilash alongside. To talk about Abhilash, I talk about Abhilash for the last 233 days. Every time we all listen to it, I say we, I mean all of the followers around the world and those that are non-sailors and sailors lived every day with the entrance in the GGR. And now we're seeing only 3 continue in the race. 2 have now finished. Michael Goog is still out there, and Jeremy too. Jeremy and Simon in Chichester class. But we got to know you even more this time than 2018. But 2018 for GGR was very exciting. It was the first recreation of the original Gold Globe. And when we had this Indian guy, who happened to be a commander, say he wanted to enter the GGR in 2018, it was very exciting. I said, oh, this is interesting. what boat are you going to use? And then he says, oh, I think I might do a Suhaili replica. That was exciting. And then at that stage we knew there was a connection to Sir Robert Knox-Johnson, our patron, winner of the first Golden Globe race. And just as a footnote, the very first boat I ever built when I started to build when I was 18 was a replica of Suhaili. So now this crazy Indian guy is building one of my favourite boats. And it was exciting to see Abhilash sailing down through the Atlantic and entering the Southern Ocean, because he was flying, and all of a sudden the little slow boat called Suhaili in 1968 was flying, bearing down rapidly on Mark Slats in a Biscay 36. Sorry?
Mark Slats was on a Rustler 36.
Yeah, that's a Rustler 36, I mean, yeah. So you were chasing him and you were bearing down in a Suhaili. So it was fascinating, and then all of a sudden we get the words in a very big storm, rolled over, dismasted, in the bottom of the boat. So that was tough for everyone. Anyway, so Abhilash comes back and says he wants to do 2022, but there was no sponsor. And we spoke all the time, you know, and I didn't think you were going to make it. I really didn't think it was a lost cause. And then all of a sudden they get a call, oh, I think I'm on a plane tomorrow going to the Emirates in a 5-star hotel, and I don't know what's going to happen. And then we get the call, I got a sponsor. Now I need a boat. And it was months away from the start, quite literally. So then I thought, great, Abhilash is in. And then there was Gijón. And a simple little sail from Gijón to Les Sables d'Olonne. And then there was Robin's book. Boy, how anyone could ever read A World of My Own. And he wasn't even alone anymore. He had 2 crew, and unfortunately there was another accident. And I thought, oh no, you know. And so now he's a fighter, and our nickname in the office for Abhilash was Mr. Fix-It during the GGR. He had to fix so many things to keep the boat going, but he did. And then there was the race between Kirsten and Abhilash, and I was on the seat of my pants. And I'm doing this stuff every day, but I was really, in the last few weeks, it was like, whoa, what's happening here, what's happening there? And so was Umi. She used to ring me regularly and say, what are you saying this for? What are you doing that for? Because the GGR is a family affair. And you haven't heard the stories yet.
No.
But Umi lived every minute of what you went through. You know that anyway. But that's the nature of the GGR. You can't sit on the sidelines, you know. There's so many people that are actually watching every day. And it's an amazing story. And you're a big part of it. So, so yeah, thanks. That's all I can say. It's an epic. I like the GGR. And I like Les Sables d'Olonne, because it's a big part of the GGR. And that means the Les Sables d'Olonne city officials, but also the community. So it's Bayanet for him, and it's Les Sables d'Olonne for us. Thanks. Oh, very important piece of news. The official finishing time, which needed a bit of maths. I was never good at maths, and unfortunately Jean-Luc did not come into the office until the very last minute.
He's a maths teacher.
Yes, a maths teacher. But I'll give you the basis of it without actually declaring the accurate time, because Jean-Luc hasn't had a chance to check it yet. So the basis is today at 0446 UTC, which is actually 6:46 local time, and a few seconds, Abhilash crossed the finish line. That was a provisional time, and since then we've measured the amount of fuel. I don't even think you know the numbers yet. So the fuel was calculated at 65 litres used on board. There are 25 litres for free, okay, allowed to all entrants. And so that means you used 40 litres, okay? And that creates a time penalty of 80 hours. And then we subtract from that the credit from your assistance with Tapio's rescue, which was 12 hours. So that then comes back to a 68-hour time penalty, which is 2 days and 20 hours. And then we have to add that to the finishing time. So you really haven't finished yet. You're still out there. Okay. Yeah. Are you enjoying today? Yeah. What are you eating today? You got enough food?
Tea.
Tea. Oh yeah, tea. Boy, I was worried when you were drinking 1 litre of water a day. I tell you.
I was not drinking 1 litre of water a day.
Oh, less?
No, my total consumption was 1 litre a day, not drinking.
Ah.
I was drinking, I think, 1 cup of water in 2 or 3 days.
Oh, jeepers. Okay, and I think that might have not helped your back pains either.
Yes, exactly. So you need water for lubricating and, for the
Yeah.
muscles, and I think that added to the back issue.
Yeah, okay. So more stories yet to be told. Never believe what they say on the tweets. You don't get the real story till it's back here.
Drinking 1 litre a day is like luxury. I was cooking rice in seawater, and first you mix rice in water, leave it for a few hours, and the rice soaks fresh water, and then you throw that seawater and add fresh seawater so that it's less salty, and then boil it, and then take 1 cup of fresh water, rinse the rice, remove the salt, and now eat it.
Okay, sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay,
So what is the final
the final time yet to be checked? It looks like it's the second of May, around about 0:46 something. But we'll have it in the press release. Jean-Luc has to check my figures. Do you confirm? Yeah, I just got it. It got really complicated at the last minute. We've got daylight saving time. We've got to subtract it off from the start time because it was started at 4 o'clock on start day. So we haven't had enough time yet to fully calculate, but we will for the press release. But yes, there was 2 days and 20 hours has to be added to your finishing time, and then we'll come up with the final date time.
Done, Abhilash, any more comments before questions and answers from the journalists? Non?
Nope.
Écoutez, vous avez la parole. Merci de lever la main. On vous apporte un micro pour que la traduction puisse se faire et que les gens qui nous suivent tout autour du monde puissent participer et bien comprendre les questions et les réponses. S'il vous plaît, ne vous exprimez pas beaucoup en dehors des micros parce que sinon ceux qui sont à l'autre bout ne peuvent pas tout percevoir. Alors, la première question. Alors, la deuxième question. La deuxième. Ouais.
Katie Stickland at Yachting Monthly. Abhilash, you had more gear failure than I think any other skipper in the GGR. How did you manage that, and how did you manage to keep working out solutions to seemingly never-ending problems?
Well, I think one reason why I had so many gear failure was because after we finished preparing the boat, I really didn't have an opportunity to take it out testing. In 2012, when I did the circumnavigation, I sailed 27,000 miles on that boat as preparation, and I had the boat with me for 3 years, so I kept improving. And in 5 months, I just had 1 sail tear and hardly any other problems. But this time it was because of the fact that I couldn't take it out for a test and then improve. How did I come up with those solutions? I've got a very imaginative mind, very witty mind. Also, I had the opportunity of working with Dick Hoopmans, and Dick is like that. He is such a fantastic designer. He does all this work on the boat, but he doesn't go about it with some top-end exotic tools. You'll see him working with the same saw and all these little things, and he creates magic. And he does all these calculations in his head, which somehow work out, and it's fine. And I thought if it can work for Dick, I just have to think like him. And yeah, that's how it happened. I think the proudest repair the repairs that I'm proudest of is using the anchor for self-steering. I know the anchor is supposed to stop a boat, but I managed to sail the boat from Cape Horn till here with an anchor, and bringing a halyard down with a fishing tackle. The halyard had gone all the way up, and instead of climbing the mast, I tied some fishing hooks to another halyard and sent that up, and then snagged it and pulled it down. So it's it was fun, to be honest. I mean, if I did not have those problems, I would have kind of gotten bored, and I would have tried to save my soul. And then, I would have looked for countries that would admit me without a visa, and stuff like that.
Just kind of a follow-up question. Sorry, it's Bruce Gaines, writing for Sail magazine. What was the most significant? I mean, maybe you already answered this, but breakage. And you described reaching the cap as very, very difficult. Why was that the case? Could you please provide some color?
Cape Horn, you mean?
Yes.
The damage that I had were not really fundamentally, I mean, they were not very serious. I always had a solution, and I just had to wait for the right opportunity to make the repairs. But they were like freak problems which kept happening, and that's just because I couldn't take the boat out for a spin before the race. So there was nothing that was too major. But if you ask me, the most significant one would be the one that happened to the self-steering. And luckily I had some stuff on board with which I could make a pendulum rudder. Getting to the Cape was difficult because of all the storms that I had. On 26th of January, I had a freak storm which was about at least 60 knots, not predicted. 60, yeah. I mean, at least the gust was 60. It must have been 50, gusting 60, 70 or something like that. And huge waves and no warning from GGR. And one thing led to another. So usually what happens is, you get a warning from GGR saying that at least tomorrow or day after tomorrow, it's going to be 40, gusting 60 and 6-meter waves, and this is a safe latitude for you and stuff like that. But on 26th of January, it was about 15 knots, and I was collecting rainwater, one reef on the main, and then it went up to 20 and then 30, and I kept taking reefs, and then it kept going up, and then one thing led to another, and the line of the self-steering slipped out. And I got stuck with the tiller, ended up steering for something like 12 hours. No washboard, in the cockpit, no washboard. So there was like water gushing into the chart table and the electrical panel and all that.
Why was that a washboard though? Why you couldn't?
I was stuck to the tiller. I just couldn't, go in, put a washboard. I couldn't do anything.
Okay.
And the boat kept crash diving, and so the traveler got uprooted like that. That had some damage. Then the sail got stuck, and one pattern broke, and the sail tore. Mainsail. I was only sailing on the mainsail like a laser, surfing down waves. And night fell, and I couldn't go in and switch on the navigation lights. Because I couldn't do that, I couldn't see the wind vane. I didn't have a head torch, and it was like just crazy. So 12 hours I was stuck steering, crash diving, and a long keel boat, when you steer it in such wind speeds, you're steering it with both hands. You're steering it like you row a boat, like an oar. You have to use your back. It's not like a Mercedes car. So that caused a lot of issues to my back. My back muscles spasmed. So that took another couple of days to, it went on for some time. It was so bad that I could not use my right leg. I was dragging my right leg around the boat for the next few days. And well, I had to sort out all these damaged sails and stuff. So yeah, I had a lot of problems like that. That's why rounding the Cape this time was quite tough for me. 2 knockdowns. 2 knockdowns. That happened on, I think, 7th of February, and that was my birthday week. So, you know, like I said, we were having a party at the Millie Bar Club. Yeah.
2 knockdowns
You said that-
is the mass of the water?
I think so. I have a footage where the camera was fixed on the dodger, the solid dodger, and in the footage, the entire camera dips underwater and comes back up. But here again, it's because of Dick Kopmans, who spent at least 2 weeks strengthening the chain plates that the mast survived. And of course, I didn't have any mainsail on when the knockdown happened.
Would you say that your officer training as an officer helped a lot to confront those
Yes.
issues?
Yes. So our training in the Naval Academy goes on for 3 years, 6 terms, and it's unbelievably crazy. It defies logic, it defies reason. I mean, I'll give you an example. 6 termers who are about to pass out of the Naval Academy are considered as demigods. When they undergo punishment, you have something called no movement in the academy, which means fans are switched off, windows are shut, everybody inside the dormitories, nobody's to be seen outside. That's how they consider 6 termers. And as 6 termers, for 3 days we were continuously punished. The first day we were taken to the parade ground, and you know, the standard rifle and stuff, and we were made to roll across the parade ground in the hot sun. In the mornings when you do drill, your nails fall off the boots, and when you're rolling, you're like, try to move it aside, and the officer would come and place that nail right in front of you, and you roll over it, and you're rolling in a straight line, one behind the other, and you can see, you know, shirts off, shoes off, just the trousers. You can see the back of the guy in front of you is becoming red, and then you can see blood trickle. And then you do that for 3 hours. At the end of it, when I went back to take a shower, I had to take a junior with me so that he could pick out gravel from my back. And that was the first day. The second day, we were taken to the hospital, crawling. And by the time we reached the hospital, we went 3 times. Our shirts were torn and we were bleeding from the elbows. The third day was similar. The fourth day, we came to know why that was happening. And it was happening because in a cocktail, we did not speak to the commanding officer. And that's 6 term. You have no idea what happened before that. You know, 5 terms before that. So this is like, it had some logic at least. GGR had some logic.
Namaste. I would like to ask you, as you started the trip 8 months back, what did you talk about with your wife Urmi? What did you tell her? You've got 2 sons and you've got a lovely wife who's about with you all over the tour trip. And what did you give as a message to her that you are now starting the race without knowing whether it is going to end up well or not?
I told her I'd come back.
The whole India prayed for you.
I am sure. And they were praying for me in 2018 as well. It's one incident that unified the entire country, and when I came back you know, to India, I was told that there were these housing societies which had prayer meetings, you know, for those 3 days, and a lot happened. A lot of things happened.
Thank you.
Hi, Abhilash. I will try not to cry. Sorry. So we heard about all the tough stuff. Oh, I'm Eli, by the way. But what were the happy moments that really touched you?
When I was able to speak my mind to Don at Cape Town. I was so proud of myself.
I was proud of you too.
And I went on HF and I told all the participants I've given it to Don. No, but I think it just happened, you know. I'd been through so much to get there that, and my wife knows I really don't talk about problems, I only look at solutions, but someday it has to explode, and it did. I'm not very proud of that. I've apologized already, and Don has said no apologies required, but I mean, that's another story. But I'm very, very happy that I'm back in La Sable alone with the boat. Last time I came alone, 2019, you know, for the prize distribution, but this time I'm happy that I'm back with the boat. The boat brought me back. BAYANAT has brought me back, so I think, yeah, that's one really nice moment for me.
Hi Abhilash. Can you talk me through your routing and how you prepared your routing for the race without modern technology?
It's something like, you know, as you go, you keep developing your route. So when I was heading down south till the Canary Islands, it was you know, a drag race. I made one mistake. I was given an input that there would be a high pressure at Finistre, because of which I headed out, and then the wind swung, and 24 hours later I was back exactly at you know, where I tacked. So that was one mistake. Headed south, and I had a lot of weather information from Dawn about cyclones, and that helped me guide a bit. And then I had a choice whether I could go east or go west to cross the equator. And I did some quick calculations, and I realized that it's much better to go east, because I could have 3 days of no winds and I would still be on par with somebody who is crossing the equator west. And that really worked out, because I believe I was in second position all the way up to the high pressure. And I have a knack for finding high pressures. So yeah, I spent 3 days there, where I took 10,365 pictures of one albatross. And Don, if you stare at one picture for 1 hour, that is 1 hour of footage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you know, struggle out of it and went to Cape Town. After Cape Town, it was quite simple. Head south quickly, but in my head, it's like the refraction of light. Even dogs use this technique unknowingly. So if you throw a frisbee that falls in the sea, a dog is able to calculate instinctively which is the quickest path to take. So on land, the dog can be fast. So it will try to cover maximum distance on land and as little as possible at sea. Similarly, for me, I had to get to 40 or south quickly, but not go south. So use a mixture of whatever maps I knew and reached 40, and from there I was heading east, and then Tapio's boat sank, and I got to know the position of Kirsten because of the sinking. And I was surprised to see that I was just 70 miles behind her, although she was much further ahead at Cape Town. Southern Ocean is quite simple. Keep taking the northwesterly and southwesterly and northwesterly and southwesterly till you hit high pressure at Tasmania, where you spend 3 days. And most of the high pressures move out in 3 days. That's another discovery. So on the third day, the high pressure moved out, and I went in, and then I spent a day there recuperating. But it's quite simple like that. Coming back in the Atlantic, my strategy was to, I was behind Kirsten. It was to do what Kirsten is not doing. And there was a couple of hints which kind of told me that she's going to go east. One was that she told me so in New Zealand, close to New Zealand, that was what she was planning to do. And secondly, I got a call. She was talking to Peter Mott, and she said she was off Port Stanley, so it meant she was heading east. And I wanted to take the current and go west of Aucklands, but because of the northwesterly, I was not able to do that. I crossed east, but stayed on the west side. And then my plan was to go a little bit east, 50 to 100 miles east, to avoid the Brazil current. But that's the day on which I had the sail tear and the backstay broke. So I had to put the boat on a safe course. And that day, I was off Uruguay. There was this low pressure which was giving a very nice breeze to go northeast. I just couldn't use that. So I ended up closer to the Brazilian coast. Somehow I think I managed to avoid the current and reach the doldrums close to Brazil. And yeah, after that, once I got out of the doldrums, it was quite simple. Get away from the equator quickly, and then reach the westerlies. And that particular high pressure in the North Atlantic was very well marked. I triangulated with the wind direction that I had, and I think I was able to avoid it. And in the North Atlantic, I had only 3 hours of no wind when I had to take down the sails. So I think North Atlantic went quite okay in that sense.
So you're pleased overall? You're pleased overall?
Oh yes, I mean, I don't think anybody can do better than this just with a barometer. By the way, weather facts, I did order a weather fax. Cost me 10,000 euros, but I did order one.
And it never arrived.
No, I had the accident, so I had to cancel that and divert the cash to to repair the nose, yes.
Oui, bonjour. La ville des Sables d'Olonne fait beaucoup d'efforts pour cette course. Vous êtes un cas très particulier. Je voulais savoir si en Inde, il y avait des apprentis skippers qui se préparaient pour prendre votre relève.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to tell you that, I mean, I did not start this. In fact, this was not started by a sailor. There was an admiral called Avati, Manohar Avati. Long ago, he was doing his, he was a trainee in the United Kingdom, and he happened to see a book by a sailor called Joshua Slocum. He picked it up from the streets, read it, and he thought it's a wonderful idea. He came back to India, and he was a very young officer at that time. He rose in the ranks, retired as a vice admiral, and then he kept pressing the Indian Navy to do a circumnavigation. And finally, when one of his flag lieutenants became the Navy chief, he agreed to get this process going. And like that, a gentleman called Commander Dilip Donde went around the world alone with 4 stops. The consultant for this project was Sir Robin Knox Johnston, and I was his shore support. So that's how it started. Now, with Commander Donde finishing his circumnavigation, the Navy could have stopped it, but the Navy decided to take it one step further. They wanted to do a non-stop, and they asked me, and I said yes, and I ended up doing a non-stop. So it's 2 people. A couple of years later, 4 years later, 6 women officers made a team, and they went around the world with 4 stops. At the same time, I appeared in the Golden Globe race. And then the accident happened. Now in 2022, I did the Golden Globe race, and there was another Indian, or rather a Canadian of Indian origin, who also had entered, but because of lack of funding, he did not make it. Otherwise, there would have been 2 Indians doing this race in 22. Very soon, the Navy again is sending a woman around the world, single-handed, but with stops. So if you look, if you look back in the last 10 to 15 years, we've got at least 6 people who've gone around the world by way of both the all the 3 capes in a boat that was built in India, or rather in boats that were built in India. So it is taking off. There's no doubt about it. On the dinghy sailing stage, we've had 4 Indians qualify for the Sailing Olympics. Now one problem that I see, a peculiar problem in India, is that there's a lot of focus on dinghy sailing, because of which people keep sailing dinghies till the age of 30, 40, they're competitive right up to that age. They don't have an alternate option. But I believe that because of my taking part in a race like GGR, these dinghy sailors will now start doing some sort of ocean races. Right, and I think that is a natural progression. I've kind of shown them the way that it's possible, and it's a good idea. We also have a very short 100-mile offshore race now, which is becoming an annual feature. Otherwise, we never had offshore races. And by the way, I also want to tell you that, like I told Don before, the number of boats that you see in one pontoon here in Les Sables alone is more than all the yachts in India, right? So it's me coming here is literally like Jamaica sending a luge team to the Winter Olympics. That's how it is. And I get to sail only once in 4 years. So I take permission from my wife. I say, can I go sailing? She says, yes, and I go around the world. And then there are no boats in India for me to sail.
Abhilash, est-ce que tu as pêché ou essayé de pêcher?
I know I needed all the hooks to get halyards down.
Dommage, tu aurais eu des bonnes calories à manger.
Yeah, well, at least to the equator, I was overstocked with food. And at the equator, I realized that I had a lot of tins that were rusting, and there were worms coming out of it, and I had to throw away a lot of food. Otherwise, I was overstocked.
Une autre question?
What's next?
Like I said, I can do anything, as long as my wife permits. But well, let's see. I mean, it's just I just finished one, and maybe I'll do some flying. I don't know. Let's see.
I was curious about whether when you were in the doldrums, was that the most difficult time psychologically, or not, as far as your morale went? And actually, I have another question. I don't know if you have the time to answer it, but in these heavy wind conditions, there's some people heave to. There's arguments about using anchors, etc. It's kind of a long discussion to have, but did you learn anything, or is there something you describe succinctly about whether it's better not to never heave to, and when that happens, what do you do exactly as far as the sail goes, etc.?
All right, the first question, the first high pressure was very frustrating, the one before Cape Town. But after that, I kind of got used to it, and I came to terms with it, and I didn't have any problem. As far as heavy weather sailing is concerned, I believe it changes from boat to boat. Robin had a lot of success with towing, a hawser in a U shape behind a Suhaili, but the Suhaili is a canoe stern. And for the Rustler, which is a square transom, in the winds that I experienced, which had gusts of up to 60 knots, even bare poles, the boat was very stable downwind. Sailing, I mean, not me steering, but on the wind pilot. Put a very small sail in the front, she's very stable downwind. The knockdowns happen because of a beam wave, right? Again, I mean, Jean-Luc might know better because he sailed a Rustler last time. I don't know, I mean, maybe you can stream a drogue behind that will stabilize you against the predominant wave, but maybe a wave that comes at 90 degrees might still knock you down. Might, I don't know. But with this Rustler, up to 60 knots, she was really, very stable downwind, down wave, and there was no problem.
Downwind and downwind.
Yeah.
We saw you sailing really fast sometimes, and we wondered what was your secret. Can you tell us only one of your secrets?
Secret sail.
I got a secret sail which has got many components. For example, one component is Sandy, another component is Dick, my wife, my brother, my sponsors. They're the wind beneath my sails. I don't have that single secret sail which you put and everything happens magically. It's I think in addition to all the support that I got, I have a little bit of experience flying aircraft in the Navy, and I was trained in aerodynamics by the Indian Air Force. And in the Indian Air Force, if you don't score 98%, they just kick you out. So they did train me very well. So I kind of can squeeze out a little extra out of the sales. I think that has helped me a bit.
I will post a photo of the secret sale today on GGR Facebook. Do tune in, and you will see the secret sale.
He's doing that just to get more followers. Don't do that.
Peut-être une dernière question avant de mettre un terme à la conférence de presse.
Hello, Cass Schmidt from Practical Boat Owner. Before you left, I asked you what 2 things you would not want to go to sea without, and you told me popcorn and more popcorn. And that you're going to take as much popcorn as your manager allowed. Was it enough? And was there something that you subsequently wish you had brought instead of so much popcorn?
Well, I got a lot of popcorn, but I needed a microwave. They were microwavable popcorn. And then I had to invent techniques to take it out of the bag and then put it in a pot and heat it without charring it. And that was like a long series of experiments. And by the time I had perfected the art of making good popcorn, the race kind of got over. The little things I would have loved to carry a lot of snacks because you need to keep eating. So yes, I would have carried more snacks, more Coke, more sugar. I mean sugary drinks, more spares, maybe a spare water pump, spare wind pilot blade. A lot of spares, which I really didn't have the time to think about because I was totally focused on getting the bow ready. And my contribution to getting the bow ready was quite simple. I just had to keep feeding the people who worked. So I was constantly running around getting food for everybody.
Can I just ask you one last one? What advice would you give to all of the GGR sailors who are now looking at entering 2026 GGR, except for taking normal popcorn?
I think it's quite important that you train hard on the boat that you're taking, and it's preparing a boat is an iterative process. So you have a boat, you prepare it to a certain extent, you take it through a serious shakedown sail, come back and then make improvements and take it out again for a serious sail, come back and make improvements, and finally you know what the boat behaves like, you know what she can do, she cannot do. And the boat's reached a stage where it won't need too many repairs. Like we say in flying, in aviation, an extraordinary pilot is a pilot who uses his extraordinary skills to avoid getting into a situation that might require the use of his extraordinary skills. So, I mean, just get comfortable with the boat and know its limitations and prepare the boat. That's what was kind of missing for me this time. And I ended up doing all the preparations during the race. I hardly sailed, I hardly raced, I was mostly preparing the boat.
Abhilash, tu as fait un long voyage. Est-ce que tu as fait de belles rencontres au cours de ce long voyage?
Yes, I met a guy from India, from Kerala. And then, over the course of speaking again, it's like, this has happened twice with me. 2018, I meet this ship, I call him, ask him for my position, and he gives me the position. He's like, why don't you have a GPS? I said, I'm doing a race without a GPS. And he's like, how many people? I said, one guy. And he asked me, are you European? I said, no, I'm Indian. And this guy's like, oh, I'm also Indian. By the way, do you happen to know this guy called Abhilash Tomy? And I'm like, that's me. And then, you hear that accent, and turns out he lives close to my house. And like, Malayali, are you from Kerala? And he's like, Ade! And then, you get talking. So similarly, I met a guy, that guy's name was Martin Marcos, and this time I met a guy called Alfaz. Again, we spoke in Malayalam, and yeah, interesting meetings. By the way, in the first circumnavigation I did, this is like off the topic, after about 90 days at sea, not seeing any ship, any boat, after rounding Cape Horn, I saw a yacht. And when I called that person in the yacht, imagine 90 days, no human around me. And after 90 days, when I speak to that person on the yacht, it turned out to be a woman. And we had a nice chat. I love listening to her voice. And I asked her if I could see her face, and she said, no chance.
Merci beaucoup à tous. Merci Abhilash pour l'amitié et la gentillesse avec laquelle tu as réalisé ces exercices d'arrivée de la solitude à la foule et du calme aux questions, aux pressions. C'est vraiment gentil d'avoir donné du temps et du cœur à tous ceux qui voulaient connaître un peu plus de ton histoire.
Thank you.